I was wrong on the altcoins. The markets didn't go up and the largest daily liquidation event ever took place. Am I still alive? Well, I'm sitting here and today we're going to discuss whether I was wrong on the altcoins and why this actually happened. Let's get started. Last week we discussed the fact that I'm betting everything on the altcoins, and as a result we've seen that we've got a massive collapse on the markets after that, and you might question whether we're going to have any run at all. And I do believe that we're going to see one, but there were multiple events that actually took place during the weekend. So the first question we need to answer is the question of what has caused this collapse. And I've got multiple reasons for that. And the first one is the fact that we have Donald Trump announcing tariffs on Friday. Actually, before that, we also have the Japanese yen carry trade that unwinded itself again. So we had the Bank of Japan doing a rate hike 1 week prior that caused a collapse earlier in August of 2024. And in this case, we've got the tariffs that were announced on Friday by Trump, which says 25% on Mexico and Canada and 10% on China. And the fact that he implied tariffs is going to change everything on a macroeconomic playing field. But the first initial reaction of the markets is that the markets are bearish or having a shock effect, resulting into the futures markets on Sunday having a massive spike up on the dollar, as you can see, primarily strength in the dollar. And after that, it reversed on Monday, showing weakness. I'll get back to this at a later point. The second reason for the crypto markets to correct as they did is the fact that USDT was delisted on multiple exchanges. As you might know, we've got the MiCA regulation kicking in that USDT doesn't want to comply with, and through that they were delisted across the board on the 31st of January. At least there's a gradual process, which means that from anywhere between the 31st of January and the 13th of February, you can only start selling your USDT towards the other assets, and then gradually it will be entirely delisted so that all the trading pairs will be either against Euro or against USDC in Europe, which means that there is a low liquidity taking place. And the final reasoning is the fact that the first week of the month is usually a relatively bearish week. It is the unemployment week, and it's also the rollover weekend for options trading, which goes into the next contract, stacking up to a cocktail of having low liquidity on the exchanges during the weekend. And such an event has been leveraged multiple times in history. And to be quite honest, nothing happens by surprise. This has been happening again during the weekend, in which it is the easiest way to manipulate the markets. And this correction and this collapse was heavier than the one that we have seen with FTX and Luna. And surprisingly, after this event took place, we've seen multiple positive signals kicking into the markets on Monday and Tuesday, which is primarily correlated with Trump. But Trump has been signing the Wealth Sovereign Fund, or Sovereign Wealth Fund, which might imply the fact that we're going to be seeing Bitcoin being added into the fund. At least Senator Loomis, who is now in charge of a committee, responded with a Bitcoin logo in the retweet, signaling that likely Bitcoin is going to be attached into this fund. Then on the same day, Eric Trump, one of the sons of Donald Trump, tweeted that it's a great time to buy ETH, which is the fact that Trump has been buying ETH. Prior to the collapse, he has been buying 200 million in Ethereum in his World Liberty Finance fund. And he has been adding 200 million during the collapse. So he has been using it to buy the dip. Additionally on that, he paused the tariffs on Mexico and Canada by a month. And on top of that, the US is going to hold a press conference was holding a press conference about digital assets. That news came out on Monday as well. And this entire cocktail reversed the markets back up, in which altcoins like Tao crashed to $210 and bounced back towards 400, but also Bitcoin collapsed to 90k and went all the way back up to 102, through which it makes an ideal situation or an easy setup to manipulate the markets as the markets are still unregulated. So large investors and whales take the moment when they know that there's big news coming up in the week after to just squeeze all the leverage traders out of the markets and then reverse the markets back up. That's what has been happening. So why is this a potential fact that we're going to see a change in the market sentiment? Well, these big collapses usually signal a market reversal, and altcoins are going to do really well when there is no more QT, but there might also be a different reason for the fact that we're going to see a change in dynamics, because China is going to be responding with tariffs themselves, and likely they are going to turn internally with their economic policy instead of externally, which is going to cause them to sell dollars and to see the yields on government bonds drop. And that itself might be pivotal, through which from that perspective the altcoins are likely going to turn back up as market trends end with capitulation. So lots of things have been happening. Let's discuss the altcoin markets on what we are seeing there and whether there's an actual reason for upwards momentum to expect. So let's talk about the altcoin markets, which, if you're looking at the Ethereum ecosystem, they have not been providing the actual returns that we were all looking for, especially if we have the thesis of the 4-year cycle still being applicable. And if the 4-year cycle makes sense, then we're quite far into the second year of the bull market, where we might have been hitting the actual cycle low earlier in the week, resulting into a completely different thesis than the previous market. So I think, to my understanding, if we look at it from a broader scope, then the 4-year cycle is completely nonsense. I think that we gradually are increasing the fact that the cycle is likely going to be longer. At least we have been witnessing the longest bear market ever for especially the ETH ecosystem or utility coins. And there is an irrational negativity surrounding those coins. And there's also an irrational valuation of those coins at this point, which we can see in the TA as well. And that is due to the fact that meme coins have been in the picture for now, have been resulting into gains. But people are fed up losing 90% of their value in 2 months, and therefore might be rotating to more boring coins that are going to gradually increase over time. And finally, as I said, markets reverse on massive capitulation days like we have seen during the week. History repeats itself, and most likely that has been the case with this as well. If we are looking at the ETH Bitcoin chart, then we can actually see a case that we have round-tripped 4 years of upwards momentum. Well, it was 1 year of upwards momentum, but we have come down to the valuations of December 2020. And if we recall this moment, the markets collapsed in the exact same period here with this deep wick just prior to Christmas. And after that, we triggered the actual bull market. So that is the case. And after that, we have seen a bear market for Ethereum for 1,155 days, the longest bear market ever on Ethereum. And now potentially, if the upcoming week is going to be green, we are having a bullish divergence taking place on ETH against Bitcoin on the weekly, which is comparable to the low that we've had in 2019, where we saw the exact same on the 3-day chart. And when we talk about bullish divergences, then you also know that I'm usually taking the total tree chart, which is the altcoin valuation chart, divided by Bitcoin as a prime indicator of weakness and strength of the altcoin markets. And since June 2023, it has been building up a bullish divergence to indicate that we're likely going to see some momentum to the upside, which is the longest bullish divergence since its existence. The last time we've seen one in 2019, as I recall, we signaled the low. And right now, we have been pushed down for 1.5 years. Probably whales just want to accumulate lower valuations, whatever it is. But this bullish divergence implies that we are likely going to reverse back upwards. And in this sense, you can also see that the bullish divergence is still remaining intact, and that there is a likely case that we're going to make that reverse upwards if the coming weeks are going to turn green. Another chart that's important to watch is the orders divided by Bitcoin chart. It's kind of the same as the previous one, where you can also see that we just have a new bottoming process taking place, a capitulation wick, which is very deep, and there is also the bullish divergence likely to occur here. So those are all ingredients that we can use for frameworking the case of a potential upwards momentum. And you can also see that there is a super high correlation between Bitcoin and the dollar. In this case, this was primarily prior to the fact that the markets were going to go up. So this is the futures markets of Sunday evening. The dollar started to skyrocket due to the tariffs being in place. And we can see that Bitcoin collapsed, but quickly reversed when the dollar started to come back to neutral. So that correlation is super high. And if the dollar and the yields are going to fall in the upcoming 2 weeks, which might be to geopolitical reasons, but this also might be due to internal domestic reasons of having higher unemployment data, for instance, that can result into Bitcoin going into a new all-time high. And if we look at the altcoins in specific, we can see that if the yields are going to go down and the dollar is going to go down, there's one ecosystem that's going to do well, which is the one that Trump has been buying into. Aave, Chainlink, and Ethereum. The Ethereum ecosystem is likely going to thrive. And in that case, we need to look at higher beta plays on top of Ether, where, for instance, Optimism has been printing its lowest price value in the past 3 years, and it has been printing the largest capitulation volume in history on a daily candle, and it's making the exact same price action as we've witnessed in the summer of 2023, which marked the last low, where it's very likely that we're going to reverse upwards, in the sense that if we are going to close our weekly like this, you want to see a candle going back to $1.50 in the weeks to come, and that would be an ideal situation of momentum to go. So overall, it's a bullish perspective in the sense that the altcoin markets are going to likely reverse from here. But what about my portfolio? Let's discuss that next. The following altcoins are part of my portfolio, and I would like to share them with you because I want to be transparent. And to be transparent, none of them I've got a partnership with. I've also not been selling the past few weeks. I wish I did that, but I've not been doing that. So 4 big ones, 4 smaller ones. Optimism, BitTensor, Celestia, and Psy. And the smaller ones are Aevo, Renzo, Omni, and Rocket Pool. And yes, they have been losing a lot. But if we look at the charts, then they have been printing a new low. So times can only become better from here. And I wanted to quickly scan them. If you can see, BitTensor has been making its largest capitulation candle since it got listed on Binance, as you can see here. And it's actually been bouncing up quite swiftly after that. And on the exact same day, it hit $210 on Hyperliquid, and then it bounced back up to $400. Where there's a very likely case that, well, the liquidity on the downside has been taken, so likely we're going to have a supply shock the other way around. Celestia has been printing a new low, but I'm showing the weekly candles here, which shows that the weekly in itself is a reversal candle in a build-up. So yes, my portfolio has been completely vanished away, and that's not great. But I also know what the opportunity is in the upwards markets and what the bull cycle can bring. And that's a topic that we're going to be discussing in the next videos. If we're looking at the altcoins in terms of Psy, and I'm going to look at Optimism in a little bit, we can see that Psy has been taking all the liquidity that's possible to be taken. There's just not much more. If there is a reversal, it's here. If there is a capitulation, it's here. So it has taken the liquidity which is beneath the low of the Japanese yen carry trade and completely round-tripped the entire run. And it's also printing a strong weekly candle where optimism, as you can see, just in line with BitTensor, is having its highest or largest capitulation volume in history. And also the RSI is getting into areas where we are at least having a bounce, where in 2023 we have seen the exact same, but also in 2024 in July and in August of 2024, we are likely going to see the exact same taking place. So in this sense, I think that the chances of having that reversal are significant. So it's not as bad as you might think it is. It's actually terrible, but it's all a screenshot at a moment in time. So if you have patience, then it's completely going to be fine. Good parts, if we look at the Bitcoin valuations, and in this case, I added one coin, which is Wormhole. Multiple ones are printing massive bullish divergences, which I rely on when it comes to investing into altcoins. And in this case, we have a massive bullish divergence on the weekly time frame for Wormhole against Bitcoin and a falling wedge construction, which is still the same. Similarly, we've got the exact same for Omni taking place here, which needs to reverse in the coming 1 to 2 weeks and print green candles to confirm this bullish divergence. Otherwise, it's completely invalidated. But if that happens, you can see that the upside going back into these regions is between 4 to 6x against Bitcoin. And finally, we can also see this for Renzo, which is currently printing the exact same structure, which needs to be followed up with strength in the upcoming 1 to 2 weeks to confirm this bullish divergence. So I was wrong on the altcoins and I was wrong on the timing of the altcoins. But given that my horizon is more than probably most of the traders' horizon, I'm not feeling as comfortable as I wish I would, as my portfolio is down a lot. But I know what the upside is going to be. And this is just a screenshot of a certain moment in time. And if I would be selling right now, then that just doesn't make sense. Because if I'm looking at these charts, I'd rather want to accumulate or I would like to hold. And if I'm going to be selling here, I'm just fooling myself in the sense that I know that they are irrationally undervalued. The upside is going to follow through, except despite the fact that social media is just not positive anymore, which I completely understand. But I do know that from the previous cycle, my portfolio went down by 80% in 3 months and then went up by 50 to 100x in the year after. So you can't have the returns without risking what we have been risking. And I'm completely fine by taking that risk. And I'm currently just holding my portfolio. And I think that's an advice that you should be taking into account for your own strategy, that if you're having the altcoins at this point, it doesn't make sense to sell them. Thank you very much for watching. This weekend we are going to have a special one, which is about a certain project. Which one do you think it is? Leave it behind in the comments beneath. Also make sure to subscribe. I'll be back with a new update on Sunday. Ciao!